I tried speaking to my school therapist for comfort. I never thought I'd be handcuffed to her bed. I guess that most kids were too afraid to speak about their problems to an adult who was practically a stranger. I now understand the horrifying truth of why students weren't going to see her. One day I finally mustered up the courage to go to her and voice my troubles. I went up to her door during break time and knocked. Through the window I could see her raise her head, smile and motion for me to come in. I did. She greeted me by introducing herself and asking for my name. Dr. Tanner was a very soft-spoken woman who seemed to radiate kindness. In less than 30 minutes I rambled to Dr. Tanner about how mean my parents were to me and how they didn't care about me at all. After a while my voice began to quaver and I stopped speaking. The psychologist listened patiently to my whole spiel, arms folded and head nodding. I half expected her to begin talking about how everything I had just said was untrue and that my parents loved me dearly and blah blah blah. But she didn't. Dr. Tanner leaned towards me with a grin on her face and said, "You know, I'm the best school psychologist in the world. I promise we will fix this." I should have known something about the way she talked was deeply wrong. But I was desperate, and I had no one else to go to. I rolled my eyes. "Okay, but how?" I asked. "I have my ways," she replied. "I'm a woman of my word. I promise that within just 1 month the relationship between you and your parents will change for the better. Forever." After a brief pause, she continued. "Although I do need you to make me a promise. You have to promise me that you'll come back to my office after school tomorrow and that you won't tell anyone that we had this conversation today. It'll be our little secret." I promised. The following day, I returned to Dr. Tanner after school. It was around 4 p.m. when I entered her office. After a warm welcome she asked me to have a seat in front of her desk once again. Upon sitting down, I watched Dr. Tanner close the blinds of the door's tiny window. "There," she smiled. "Now we have all the privacy we need." We began to talk about my likes and interests, my favorite subjects in school, my least favorite teachers, and things of the like. About an hour into the conversation Dr. Tanner offered me a soft drink. I gladly took the offer, considering my parents never allowed me to drink soda. Dr. Tanner reached over to her mini fridge and fidgeted around, before setting down 2 open cans of soda on the desk. Afterwards we continued to talk about what was going on in my life, but it wasn't long before I passed out from whatever substances Dr. Tanner placed in my drink. It took me a minute or so to adjust my blurred vision upon waking, and when it did, I had no idea what to think. I was handcuffed to a bed and my mouth was sealed with duct tape. I immediately began to panic, squirming and tugging at the cuffs, but gave up soon after. My eyes widened in disbelief after looking around the room. There were posters of superheroes pinned up along the walls and photographs of famous athletes on shelves. In the middle of the room was an old television and Super Nintendo with various game cartridges stacked alongside it. I didn't know what to think. Here I am in a room filled with items most kids would die to play with. I would have probably cried from joy hadn't I been handcuffed to a bed frame. My stomach sank once again as the door opened and Dr. Tanner walked inside. She sat down on the edge of the bed. "Now listen," she said. "You can watch the second part by pressing share and more."